Hello, everybody. This is C.J. Miller. I'm in my apartment. I have just finished this really awesome jambalaya on my stove. Let me tell you that this is not from a box. Not from a box. There are some shortcuts. I did use a mixed vegetable blend. You can get those out of the you can get those out of your frozen section, and it works great. These are large chunks, and that's why I selected the package. And this one actually had a lot more bell pepper in it. It wasn't it was it was a little bit more of a markup than some of the blends that I've had, where the smaller diced and smaller chunks, and those tend to be a lot. They tend to be heavy on the onion and lighter on the bell pepper. This was probably about half and half, like half and half green and red bell pepper, and the onion was maybe about, oh, I want to say maybe a little bit less than the composition. Anyway, I started browning those first in this cast iron skillet with some margarine. I I really like to use butter, but margarine is what I had on hand. And while I did that, I chopped up 4 boneless chicken breast, 1 smoked sausage. I did not have andouille, but that's okay. If you get a good Cajun sausage, that's really great. But you're not gonna have that all over the country, and that's cool too. This was your basic uh, Eckrich Farm smoked sausage. I didn't mind that it was not going to be spicy. I'm adding my own stuff to it. Uh, anyway, so I got those browned, and then I used the runoff, the broth from the chicken. As I was cutting the chicken, it produced some juice, and so I used that in the pan also to keep the flavor. And then I'm not worried about cross contamination or anything like that because I kept everything separate. But I did save that broth from the chicken as it was defrosting, and I did use that. If you have broth in a can, it was like as you let chicken sit and thaw, it's that the juice that produced. That's what I'm talking about. But so yeah. Anyway, I put that in the pan, browned it all up, then you know added maybe about another two. It's like maybe I used like half a stick of the margarine to do that, and then I finished when it got finished, I put the other half of the stick of margarine in. So there's a lot of margarine in here, and then I used a bold just basic Cajun spice. I did not have uh, what Northerners would call sassafras and what we call filet gumbo, but I typically like to use that when I'm making a gumbo anyway. I don't always put it in a rice recipe. I would sometimes put it in a gumbo, but yeah, I didn't have that, but I did use sage, and I used basil, and there is um, a lot of parsley in here. I used an Italian seasoning blend that has various other things on it, just to give it a little bit of enhancement. And I kind of worked with it to flavor, to taste, uh, and and uh, and then when I needed to get around to getting a little spice, a little bite to it, I used tiger sauce. Tiger sauce it's a really balanced flavor of where I'll show you. Hold on one second. Okay, so tiger sauce, uh, and this is what the bottle looks like. And so yeah, and what it's got in it, it's really great. I had so many natural flavors from the onions and the bell peppers, and there's even a bit of garlic powder. You put whole garlic in it and everything, but I didn't. I used garlic powder, but yeah, I don't want to do too much garlic in this, because if you put too much garlic on chicken, it will make chicken really tough. So you have to be careful on how you do that, especially with chopped white meat chicken. You have a little bit more of a liberty with the dark meat chicken with the garlic, because it actually uh, will not toughen up quite as much. But I did this really slow, so it's good. Okay, so the ingredients in this sauce here, the tiger sauce, uh, cayenne pepper, sugar. You want to watch the sugar content if you're diabetic. Distilled vinegar, water, salt. If you need to watch your salt, you want to watch out for that. But there's crushed red peppers, and there's chili peppers, and basically some extra sodium, some extra, you know. That's great that they put put the label on here, because there's, table salt, and then there's some other sources of sodium. Processed salts tend to do that. Another thing that I used, where did I put that? Hold on. Okay, so this is Tony's more spice, and you can get this in a bolder flavor if you want, but it's a Creole seasoning. It's not the there's different. They have different seasoning blends. You just find one that you like. They're all very similar. Some of them have a lot more pow, but uh, you can get these things in a box. The rice and everything like that. But and I would do that on a quick basis. But this, it was like, let me just. I've got this white rice. It's actually better if you can get some long grain white rice. I think. Let's see. This is more of a sticky rice, which is kind of a medium grain. Uh, but yeah, um, that's fine. It worked out fine. Did just what I wanted to do. Okay, so the ingredients on this Tony's is, let's see, we find it in English. Salt, main ingredient. Okay, there again, you want to be. There's a lot of salt in these blends, all of them. Uh, Red pepper, black pepper, chili powder, and garlic powder, dehydrated garlic, and those are your main ingredients. And then there's a couple of agents to prevent caking and to keep fresh, but um, that probably include more sodium. As we've talked, you see how this is just kind of like fluffed when we get it. So what you do is you take that, and then you put enough water in it, in the meat and everything like that, to maybe to put 3/4 of a cup of rice into the skillet. This is a cast iron skillet, and then you bring it up to temperature, and then what do we do from there? So I got a little scorch right there on that piece, but that doesn't bother me that much. That one little piece, most of it's fine. Uh, so anyway, um, it's probably just because I left it browning just a little bit too long. That won't bother me that much. Uh, anyway, you don't want too much scorching going on, because then your food would taste burnt. But you want to make sure your food gets well done. So anyway, yeah. So the secret to rice is you put the rice in whether you're doing it this way, or if you're doing it, um, uh, just plain white rice. You want to put it. Put it in the water, about 2.5 times the amount of fluid that there is to the rice. Get it just to a good boil. Cover it, and then bring it down to a simmer, and leave it covered for between 15 and 20 minutes. You kind of have to go by how the temperature of your stove, and how everything's working, the humidity of the day, all the little various factors. But it'll be between 15 and 20 minutes. You kind of want to get the rice tender, and you want to get all that water and everything absorbed. And then yeah. And then you take the lid off, and you fluff it for a few minutes, as I've talked to you, and now this is ready to eat. And I'm going to take just a little forkful. See, I just did this whole skillet with a fork. You don't need any fancy things to do something like this. Some of the chicken, some of the sausage, and some of the rice. This is great. The tiger sauce gave it the twist, the wang, the little bit of the Creole sassafrasness that I would have missed by not having the gumbo filet in it. Which gumbo filet, if you hear people talk about gumbo filet, it actually is ground sassafras. People make tea with it. There's even certain types of licorice that are made with it. So it's a very versatile root plant. That it's, yeah, run with it. Check it out. Try this recipe. It's really simple. Some people put corn in it. You could put tomato in here if you want. I maybe if I'd have had a can of like diced tomatoes or something, I didn't want to chop up a whole tomato or anything like that. I'm not really a big tomatoey person. The acidity of it kind of. But those things, that tiger sauce maybe even took the place of the acidity in the of the tomato or whatever. Yeah, because it tastes very good. Yeah, that's very good. So I think this is going to be a really, really easy, quick go-to recipe that I'll keep as I've explored. And this is one of these things that you can play around with. It's kind of like your favorite stew recipe that's very forgiving, your favorite beef stew recipe that's very forgiving. It's a very versatile recipe. A lot of people really, really love it. And it's called different things. These types of rice dishes. But in the South, in the Cajun South, with the Creole accent, we call this, jambalaya, in Louisiana and our neighboring areas. Check it out. Bon appetit.